That's a good point.
Hey everyone,
But thank you
welcome.
for
We're going to get started in about a minute. So if you are joining us, please stay muted until we have a chance to ask questions. If you can also put your questions in the chat, which you see to the right of your screen, we'll take those at about 8:30, 8:40. And thanks for being here this morning. So Megan is joining us. Dr. Schaefer. So with that, let's get started. I want to welcome everyone to our Kids and COVID breakfast briefing. We are here at in the Conejo Valley with a great panel of experts, and our panel led by Ryan Suiters, Senior Legal Counsel at Amgen, the world's largest biotech company and one of the region's largest employers. Today, we're going to be talking about kids, specifically about how kids are managing through the COVID crisis, how they're learning, who's taking care of them, their parents, and others, and how they're doing physically and mentally and emotionally. So keep yourself muted as you see us go through the show, and then once our panel starts talking, our producer Gary will be highlighting you, and we can bring you on to ask your question. So before we start, I wanted to introduce my favorite new book, Good Morning Zoom, a parody on every kid's favorite book, Good Night Moon. I'm not going to read it, but you should at your leisure. It's a great Thanksgiving gift too. So now before we meet our panel, let's quickly go around the Zoom and tell us who you are, the company you're with, and your title. And then we'll go to the panel and have them self-introduce with Ryan. So on my screen, I see Amy Commons. Amy, tell us about yourself.
Oh, good morning. Amy Cummins. I'm Vice President, Community Employer Government Relations with Los Robles Health System. Very happy to see you all this morning. Hope you're healthy and well, and grateful to be with you this morning.
Great. And we see Robbie Gluckson. Robbie, unmute and tell us about yourself.
Morning, everyone. I'm the Director of Community Outreach, Marketing, and Development for UCLA Health, and I'm just thrilled to be here. It's wonderful to see so many people early this morning. It makes me smile.
Well, thank you, Robbie, and thank you for introducing us to Dr. Schaefer. She's here with us at the Stonehouse, and we're wearing our masks, so. Michael Shanklin.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Michael Shanklin. I'm the Executive Director of Kidstream Children's Museum and Emerging Children's Museum in Camarillo, serving all of Ventura County.
Oh, hey, Michael. I've never actually seen you, so nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Glad to be here.
And we have Jan Marholin.
Hi, John. Good morning, everybody. I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Clara Valley, and I'm a big fan of Crystal Nannoni, so I wouldn't miss this for the world. Thank you.
Welcome, Jan. And Lori Peters.
Hi there. I'm Lori Peters. I'm the Executive Academy, which is a learning center for middle school students, operating mostly virtually right now with a lot of outdoor options. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks, John.
And you're also in the Conejo Valley, so
I'm in Thousand Oaks, yeah.
Right. And Melissa Seal. Melissa, can you say hi?
Hi, I'm Melissa Seal. I'm an executive director at Arcutis Biotherapeutics and mom of twin 8-year-olds.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Glad to see you. Thanks for being here. Kathleen Thompson.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Thompson. I'm the HR director at Limoneira Company, and I just was interested in learning about kids with the COVID and what we know so far.
Are you going to show yourself, Kathleen?
Oh gosh, John, you always make me do that.
Well, how do we know it's really you?
It's really me.
Oh, with a headset on, even.
I know. Look, don't I look darling? That's because I have other people in the room with me.
Okay.
I have my 10-year-old grand twins in the room with me.
Oh wow! You have to show us their pictures.
Oh, okay, sometime.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. So Jenny Parkinson.
Hello, good morning. I apologize that you're staring at a black screen. I have cartoons going on for my 4-year-old in the back. I'm with Boys and Girls Club, Director of Donor Relations, and happy to be here this morning.
Great. So with that, why don't we get started? And I'm going to turn it over to our host for today, Ryan Souders.
Hi, I'm Ryan Souders. I'm senior legal counsel at Amgen, and I'm a father of a 7 and 9-year-old boys, and a wonderful wife who stays home with them. I want the audience to start thinking about their questions now for our great panel, so that when we turn it over to you, it's not silence on the other end of the line. And John, are you going to do the rounds, or do you want me to turn it to each panelist? You're muted, John, so I'll send it over to Dr. Chi.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tammy Chi. I'm a board certified pediatrician working for over 20 years at Los Robles Pediatric Medical Group. I did my training at UCLA and my residency and chief residency at St. Louis Children's Hospital. When my husband finished his surgical oncology fellowship, we moved back to the area. He was born and raised here, or at least raised here in Westlake Village, where we decided to raise our 2 daughters, who actually ended up going to the same middle school and high school as he did. And I've been delighted and proud to be part of the community.
Thank you, Dr. Chi. Dr. Schaefer?
Hi, I'm Dr. Schaefer. I am from Virginia originally. I did my medical training at Virginia Commonwealth and came out to UCLA for my residency, and I can't get enough of Southern California. So I'm here to stay. I'm now a pediatrician at UCLA Westlake Village. And I love being here in the area with my fiance, Ryan, who grew up in Westlake Village.
Great. Dr. Naone?
Good morning, everybody. I have 3 boys, and I am the CEO for the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Conejo Valley. Well, I'm originally from Hawaii. My mother's side of the family is from California.
Thank you. Davida?
Hi, good morning. I am Davita Carpenter. I am the Vice President of Human Resources here at Los Robles Hospital and Medical Center. I am an implant from the East Coast, just literally arrived here in July from Maryland. Excited to be here, and I am honored to be a part of this panel this morning, so thank you.
Thank you. Julia?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julia Friedman, Senior Communications Manager at the Conrad and Hilton Foundation in Westlake Village. I'm also a transplant from the East Coast, but I've been out here for about 16 years, so I'm also here to stay. I have 3 kids, a 10-year-old and twin 7-year-old boys. So I think I'm the 3rd here who's already mentioned twins. So lots of twin love here. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And Darlene?
Hi, I'm Darlene. I am the owner of Veterinary Angels Medical Center, as well as the director of the Little Angels Project. And we are a full veterinary hospital. I have a little 5-year-old, and I am a twin since we're mentioning twins. So I just thought I'd mention that. But yeah, we take care of all the pets and human animal bonds here. So happy to be on the panel, and can't wait to hear all the questions.
Thank you very much. Well, we definitely do have the twins and East Coast transplants theme going here. I'm also from Virginia originally, and I can't get enough of the Conejo Valley. Dr. Naone, let's start with you and the Boys and Girls Club. First of all, thank you so much for the work that you do and the way that you're helping out the community. I understand that in the midst of the pandemic and everything that's going on, you've never shut down. You've continued to provide services that are really critical for essential workers, for the first responders, kids, and others. And so what can you tell us about about the work you're doing and what employers and families should know about it.
Yeah. So the first thing that it's true, we did not shut down. We closed for 2 days for cleaning, and then we came back. And one of the things that folks should know is that as a result of doing this for the last 8 months consistently, we actually have 0 cases of transmission. So we're serving about 300 kids across 6 clubs. So 3 of our clubs are still closed, but we have space in each of our facilities in Conejo Valley. Our locations in LVSD or Las Virgenes School District are completely over, they're full, and we don't have any more space, but we do have some space still in CVUSD. Good news is we are taking care of kids in out of school hours. So even though CVUSD elementary through middle have gone back in person, at least for partial day, we are taking care of the kids when they're not in school. And we are even doing transportation for our elementary kids. We do a van pickup. There's only 5 children. They've got masks. Everybody's socially distanced. But we figured out how to make that work so that we're available for the families who need us most.
Great, thank you very much, Dr. Naoni. And so now, look, I think that's wonderful news about the physical health during the pandemic and the ways that you're helping parents. What I'd like us to talk about a little bit are some of the challenges during the pandemic and maybe some of the mental challenges in addition. The CDC recently released a report showing that during the pandemic, children's mental health related emergency department visits have increased more than 20% over the same period in 2019. So Dr. Chi, what are some of the implications that study and your observations regarding children's mental health? What are some of the implications that those things have for all of us here today?
Well, in our office, we've continued to do well visits. And as part of our well visits, besides keeping children up to date with vaccines, we screen each child for mental health. For our adolescents and teenagers, we use a device called the PHQ-9. And in my experience, we truly have seen an uptick with mild to even severe depression. In our office, when we do screen them, we're able to give them many handouts, educational information. And if we think it's warranted, which sometimes it is, we will do a further telehealth to then be able to do more mental health assessment. And we have now recently been able to treat mental health, treat with medications for depression and anxiety. But even in our practice, we have had a few patients end up in the emergency room where they're evaluated by the crisis team and so forth. So it is a big deal. I do really feel for a lot of our teenagers, it's almost a sense of loss in terms of not having their social network that they normally do, their sports, their all of the things that they usually are looking forward to. It's hard to do, but definitely we're seeing more of it.
And Dr. Schaefer, what are some of the signs of stress or anxiety in children that we should all be looking out for?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of times signs of stress in kids aren't exactly the same that we see in adults. So common signs of stress in toddlers or young children might be things like they will be more fussy or irritable. They'll have increased tantrums. They might wake up at night. They could have feeding difficulties or stomach pains. They might even talk about death or illness during play. In our older children and adolescents, you'll see more things like unusual changes in mood. So they'll be irritable, they'll have feelings of hopelessness or rage. You might see increased conflicts with family members or friends. They could have a loss of interest in things they usually enjoy or difficulty sleeping, changes in their weight or eating patterns, and even difficulties with memory or concentration. So if you see any of these in your kids, it's definitely important to stay in touch with your pediatrician, and we can screen for depression and anxiety.
And what are some of the other things that parents can do to help relieve stress at home, or to recognize it quickly and get professionals' help?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things you can do at home. A few little things every day that can help keep calm at home. I like to tell patients to try to spend at least 30 minutes outdoors every day. Stick to a strict schedule, a specific bedtime every day, and get plenty of sleep each night. Eating a lot of fresh vegetables and avoiding junk food that can actually make you feel irritable. Exercising daily can be really helpful. And it's important to talk to your kids and be an active listener, because you want to hear what they're feeling and talk openly and honestly about it. And I think, one thing I really like to tell parents to do is have everyone in the family just write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. That can help really put things into perspective. And I think the final thing would be just having parents be aware of the tone that they set in the house. It's really hard to stay positive when you're dealing with your own personal stress. But I think it's really important to convey a consistent message, that better times are coming.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Chi, going back to you, with all of this in the backdrop of the mental health challenges and the stress and anxiety, what advice would you give the employers listening in here, some of the HR leaders, about the things that they can do to help parents deal with their children's stress and some of the unusual circumstances they're dealing with at home? And if you need time to think about that one, let me know and I can come back to you. I know I'm springing it on you.
I think the one thing that comes to my mind is flexibility, to be aware sometimes that parents may not be available for everything that the companies need because family takes precedence. And so to have the ability to be flexible for these families would be a good thing. Sometimes they need to be able to take their children to the doctors, do some telehealth, or even just take a mental health day to spend with their kids. So for the companies, it's really all about being flexible and understanding.
Thank you. And moving on to a different angle of it, Darlene, you work a lot with pets and their human owners, and curious what types of special benefits and challenges families with pets have to think about during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent and a business owner, and having pets, all of those things, I think that the challenges are, 1, keeping up with schedules, 2, being concerned that your pet can get COVID from you or your family, which is warranted, and also the anxiety levels of, your children and all of that. So I think just trying to mitigate that with, like everybody was saying, 1, giving yourself a break as a parent, and realizing that not everything's going to be perfect. And with your pets, treat them as family members. If you're sick, distance. Don't let everybody pet your pet. All of those things are very valid and important. For our practice, we were curbside, and that had major challenges for us as well as to our clients and our pet families, because we were taking the pets into the practice by themselves, which was a huge stress for the family members to have to leave their pets outside or leave them to somebody that they weren't completely aware of what was going on. And that faces challenges. We're now open with lots of COVID provisions, which allows us to definitely mitigate some of those challenges. But I think just everybody giving themselves a little break, and understanding that we're all just doing the best that we can helps.
That's great. Thank you. And Davida, correct my pronunciation first, please. Is it Davida or Davida? And I apologize, I'm not getting it right.
It's okay. It's Davita, like David.
Davita, excellent. Davida, I know that the Los Robles Health System has over 1,200 employees, a lot of first responders and essential workers, people dealing with stress every day. And unlike some of the rest of us, they don't have the flexibility and the luxury of staying at home. So what are some of the biggest challenges you have and your employees with kids have right now?
One of the biggest challenges is being able to feel secure to come to work and not bring any harm back to your family when you're returning back to from working and taking care of patients. So, Los Robles has done many programs. We're constantly meeting, even on a day-to-day basis, making sure that our employees are safe, the patients are safe. We're following protocols with the PPE, following the CDC. So one of those challenges is to make sure that our employees feel comfortable. They can go home and share with, especially their kids. Mommy's safe, daddy's safe. I'm washing my hands. Talk about the practices that we even want our kids to practice at home, that we're doing that in the workplace. So again, we want to continually walk the floors of the halls, make sure that we're addressing any needs or concerns as an employer, and make them feel comfortable and secure to continue coming, serving our community.
And Julia, bringing a communications and kind of busy mom perspective to things, what's been your biggest challenge? And I know your family pretty well, and your twins have a lot of energy. So what are you doing to help? What are the challenges you're seeing, and what are some of the tactics you've seen or you've tried to make it work during the pandemic?
Thank you. Yes, all three of my children have a lot of energy, that's for sure. I think one of my biggest challenges has been really the work-family or work-home separation. I'm used to getting up in the morning, taking the kids to school, going to my office, and that being my dedicated space where I can do my work all day, and then I come home and I can give my energy to my children. That line is very blurred now, and the children are having a hard time understanding that. So I'm surprised no one's run into the door yet during the last half hour. But really understanding what I'm doing and why I'm on the computer so much, and why am I not giving them attention, and why am I sometimes working into the evening because I have to take time during the day to attend to their homeschooling. Homeschooling, of course, is another issue that's been a challenge. But in terms of how we've managed it, I think I'm very fortunate to work at an organization that's incredibly flexible, incredibly understanding and compassionate about what we're going through. So we've managed to negotiate time blocks where, listen, I'm going to be homeschooling during these hours, so no meetings during those hours. I won't be responding to emails as quickly. So it's really about setting boundaries, I think, and letting the kids know and understand, when I'm in this room and when I'm in front of my computer, I'm working, and when my computer is down, I am with you. But it's been a learning curve for all of us.
And as a communications professional, the communications that the companies here today have been accustomed to has changed dramatically. So what types of things can organizations do to communicate better, both internally with their own people and externally to their customers or constituents?
Absolutely. So certainly from an internal perspective, we're used to seeing each other at the water cooler, in the kitchen, pouring coffee in the morning, saying hello, walking through the hallways, popping into each other's offices or cubicles to have conversations. None of that is happening right now. So we have to, we have an internal communications function at the foundation, and we've had to work extra hard to make sure that our culture and everything that we love about the culture at our foundation is upheld by adding, opportunities for staff to engage virtually, whether it's a happy hour or we have a cafe. So we have our chef often does recipes for us that we can follow along with. We've done other fun things with our the gardeners that work in our area in terms of learning how to pot some plants and do some fun things that I think really bring the community together. So we definitely have to work harder Certainly leadership has to be overly transparent, overly communicative. It's a very uncertain time. People are coming into this from all different directions, whether they're parents or they're single living alone, or they're caretakers of children or other people in their homes. Everyone has their own set of challenges. And so it's really important, I think, for leadership to continually check in with employees and making sure, how are you doing today? Is there anything we can do to help? So that's really important. And then from an external standpoint, I know that a lot of folks have been inundated with emails. Here's what we're doing for COVID. Here's what we're doing for COVID. And I think that's important. But I think it's also important to be transparent and open and authentic about your communications. And when you're communicating externally, talk about, really what matters to the community. And I always think about the customer. Who's the customer reading the information? What do they really want to hear versus what do you as an organization want to say? So flipping it and thinking, what is the most critical thing that my customer wants to hear from me, would be my advice on that.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for those thoughts, Julia. So as we all deal with the pandemic, the socioeconomic divide that currently exists seems to be increasing. So, Davida, you're the first one I have a question for, but I've heard it described that hospitals are like small cities, and with that you have a huge disparity in the type of work and the type of pay and just kind of social safety net that folks have, from physicians to food service workers to the people who keep the hospital clean and safe. Have you seen a disparity in the challenges your teams are facing at the hospital at Los Robles?
No, I really haven't seen any challenges. I would say this: I am very proud that HCA, Los Robles Healthcare, was one of the only employers that actually provided a pandemic pay. It was very important to them to not let the families be impacted financially if we had to do a shift with folks coming to work or providing services in different areas. So our employees during the heat of the pandemic were able to collect pandemic pay, which was a percentage of their pay, and continue to enjoy their benefits. So when it comes to the differentiation between the ebb and flow from, as you said, physicians for the other departments, I don't believe we feel anything. Right now, what the pandemic has done is really made us a community. I actually joined Los Robles in July, coming in from the East Coast. And one of the things I picked up immediately was that this is an awesome community. When I came in for my interview, the signs from the kids and the community outside was just heartfelt. When I came in and met with the members of the executive team and had an opportunity to tour the hospital, I truly felt that sense of family, no matter what position you hold. When I came in, the charge of the volunteers was very welcoming. When I actually took the job and was a part of the Los Robles family, it didn't matter. Titles didn't matter. From, working in the food service, going down there and hi, we're so happy that you're here. And I was rounding, and we're rounding on the floors to say, we're in this together. We're truly in this together. There is no differentiators between us. We're all taking a risk. We're all on the front line. But our community is worth it, and our families are worth it.
Thank you for that. And Darlene, have you seen a disparity in terms of the way that people are able to care for pets during the pandemic?
Yes. One of the things that our nonprofit focuses is definitely on helping those that have been affected financially from COVID. We saw relinquishments of animals go up. We saw adoptions actually go up. So there was the disparity on the other end where people were trying to find animals to, as therapy animals, to provide them a little bit of normalcy, happiness, and happiness for their children. We know already that animals actually reduce blood pressure, stress, anxiety, and there was a huge uptake of adoptions. With that comes cost. And a lot of people losing their jobs were not able to afford that cost. And we actually had to launch a whole new program in our nonprofit to be able to keep pets with families so that they didn't lose them and have to relinquish them by providing veterinary wellness care and the care that they need. And I think that's just very important for community members. People need to know that, you know, animals are a big part of comfort and anxiety for our children, for our people, for our homeless community. And I think that we definitely saw it. A lot of nonprofits are coming in to address the issue, and it's working. So.
And thank you for that. So going back to the physicians on our panel, what are some of the long-term health or developmental challenges that concern, potential challenges that concern you as you're dealing with families and kids during the pandemic? And what can be done to lessen those? Dr. Chi, I see you on my screen first, so if we can start with you, that would be great.
I think in terms of challenges, well, one of our challenges is making sure the patients come in so we could see developmentally, both physically and mentally, our children's developing at where they should be. They have to make that call so that we can see them. And at that point, you know, I do worry about delays in the preschoolers and the kindergartners who aren't around children as much because of the pandemic, that are building their foundation at home on a computer screen instead. I worry about the behavior disorders that we're starting to see, because it's really hard, as we all know, for parents to juggle both working from home as well as being the teacher, making all their meals and what have you. So there is more dysfunction, I think, that we're starting to see. And our teenagers, as I alluded to earlier, we are seeing quite a lot of anxiety, depression, and ADHD, but really children are resilient. And if there's anything that brings smiles to our face is the stories that they tell and the way that children are able to rise above it. And we as parents should be helping them. And I think this too shall pass is one of my sayings, and hopefully the pandemic will be behind us sooner rather than later. But at this time, we are really having to support a lot of families with education and referrals to the proper communities to give them help. And I've been referring a lot of families to a website called healthychildren.org, which is to help families with parenting during this COVID pandemic. But I'm hoping as time goes on that many of these challenges that we are seeing, we're able to deal with in a timely manner, get them through the pandemic and these challenges, and hopefully see a better day at the end.
Thank you. Dr. Schaefer, what do you have any tips on what we can all do to help lessen some of the potential longer term problem, or just even the shorter term things that we've talked about, kids not being able to socialize as much and things like that, while staying safe physically? What are some of the things we can do to lessen those the impact of the challenges we're facing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, as far as the isolation goes, there's a lot of real concerns there for, you know, developmentally for our younger kids, and for our older kids. You know, they really rely on socialization and keeping in touch with their friends. And I think it's important to not discount that. We need to make sure that we're setting up, you know, virtual play dates with our kids so that they can continue to see each other and build those social skills, even, you know, if they're not able to see each other in person. And I completely agree with Dr. Chi. I think we've all seen a drop in well child checks, and it's so incredibly important to get your kids in and get your kids seen. We've seen a lot of the, you know, bad effects of missed well child checks, and, you know, things that go undiagnosed for too long. And I can't stress the importance of that enough, as well as getting your routine vaccinations. The last thing that we want during a pandemic is another measles outbreak. So it's incredibly important to get in, and any concerns that you have, to talk with your pediatrician, because they're able to help you, and we're keeping our offices safe, and it's definitely not a place that you have to be afraid to go. We also have a lot of opportunities for televisits. If going in person is not something that you want to do, there's still a lot of things we can do over the video visit as well. So definitely something to keep in mind.
Thanks. And while we're on that topic, Davida, is the hospital and the affiliated practices, are they open for non-COVID cases?
Yes, we are. Emergency room, all of our facilities are open, our rehab centers, imaging, we are fully functioning. We welcome the community to come in. We also have a COVID testing tent that we handle for our preoperative care, but we are fully at full force, fully staffed, and everyone's, again, we're happy to be here to be able to serve the community. And we are now opened up for visitors to come in during a short window of time. We're hoping that the changes in the COVID numbers don't influence that, but we will have to change that. But we were excited about bringing the family members back because that disconnect was very difficult for the patient. And it was very difficult for our staff. They wanted to do more. They wanted to be able to be that bridge, that conduit to their family. So to have that opportunity to come back in. So yes, again, we come in, we're doing elective surgeries. Of course, the ER is functioning fully.
That's great to hear that we have great medical care that's open, UCLA Health as well as Los Robles, that we're really being taken care of here in the Conejo Valley. Julia, I understand that the Conrad Hilton Foundation mission is to improve the lives of individuals living in poverty and experiencing disadvantage throughout the world. Thinking about the topics that we've just been discussing, what are some of the challenges that you're preparing for closer to home as a result of the pandemic?
Thank you, Ryan. I think that one of the really critical things that has really lifted up over the last several months of the pandemic is it's really lifted the veil, I think, on economic disparities, particularly in Los Angeles, but I think also across the country and around the world. I think it's showed us a little bit of the structural racism that has developed over the years. As most of us, I think, know, COVID has disproportionately affected people of color. So that's something that we as a foundation are really focused on in terms of long-term response. Certainly we do some short-term grant making to help. Philanthropy is great because we have access to dollars and can get them to the communities that need them the most while government funding comes in. So that's the benefit of philanthropy. In our short-term response. But in terms of long-term, we're really looking at ways, particularly in Los Angeles, because that's our community here, of how we can work together to reimagine a more equitable Los Angeles. So that's our goal long-term in terms of grant making. But I think also other issues that I've personally noticed, folks have probably seen that LAUSD reported a 14% decline in kindergarten registrations this year. Kindergarten is not required. So my guess is, and a lot of folks believe, that the reason for that decline is because parents are they've either lost their jobs, or they have jobs and they're unable to homeschool their children, or they rely on kindergarten for childcare and they don't have an alternative form of childcare. And my personal concern, and this is something I think the foundation will tackle over time, since we do work with a lot of disadvantaged youth, is the fact that I believe that in 5 or 10 years, the economic disparity of children who are wealthier and children who have less means is going to be larger. I think in terms of college readiness, I think in terms of, Wealthier families have access to tutors. They have access to hiring teachers to conduct pod learning. Some people are sending their children to private school that offer, longer hours so that they can work. And families that are not as wealthy are not able to do that. And so the children are falling behind. And my concern is that we're going to see a larger gap in terms of academic disparities in children.
And Dr. Nyone, what has the Boys and Girls Club focused on in regard to the challenges today and trying to help lessen the impact on that they could have on the future in this regard?
Yeah, it's interesting because prior to COVID, about 50% of the children that came to club were on scholarship, meaning, we have a mixed model where those who can pay do pay for out of school services. But we do not turn any children away for economic reasons. So we basically scholarship everybody who needs scholarship. And so, like I said, prior to the pandemic, about 50% of the kids in our clubs were getting scholarships. Right now, we're at 80% of the kids in our clubs are getting scholarship. And in some clubs, it's 90%. But the average across the board is 80%. We notice that the kids who are coming to us, like their families absolutely need us. Either they are English language learners, and so they can't do the homeschooling. They're just, they're struggling with it. Or they're in service industry or agricultural industries where they have to be at work, and they have no other options for their children. They're younger, like especially the elementary kids. We've seen that with the middle school, a lot of the families are letting their kids be home. But if they're in elementary school, then people are a lot more hesitant. And so those kids are coming to us. We have seen an uptick in mandated reporting or the need to report. We've seen an uptick in kids' behavior and acting out. We were very, very fortunate to be ahead of the curve and put in social emotional learning into, we started last December actually to implement a social emotional learning, a very deep program in our organization where all of our staff learned at a deep level what social emotional learning in each of the components, as well as we have somebody who is coached our staff to implementation so that they're not just doing and learning these things for themselves and their interaction with each other as coworkers or at home with their families, but also so that they're able to teach the kids in our clubs those social emotional competencies, and then help them to interact with each other and then their families at home. But it's, yeah, we've seen behavior. I can attest as a mother of a child who graduated this last year, was a senior, 2020 senior this last May. Just the incredible impact that the pandemic has had on just kids' well-beings. So not just at home, but in the workplace with my staff. We basically show up every day and we're there for kids from 8 to 5 and their families, making sure their homework's getting done, making sure they have the social emotional supports, providing, making sure that the learning loss is mitigated. This is, I too am hoping for this to be over sooner than later.
And thank you for that and for all the work that the Boys and Girls Club is doing. One of the recommendations that's come in over chat, just in case folks haven't seen it, is to check out Dr. Chi's recommendation. I believe it's a third-party organization. She's not specifically endorsing it, but it's a resource that you might want to check out called healthychildren.org. It's www.healthychildren.org. Now, I see that folks have been asking questions on the chat like I suggested. So people were listening. I appreciate that. Here's the first question that's popping right up for me from Lori Peters of we're a little bit short on time, so let's do a quick round robin with the panel, but what measures are being taken in our organizations to create better information stream regarding vaccinations, mask use, and gatherings? And if we just want to start, I'm going to start with how I see you guys on the panel. So Julia, you want to go first?
Sure, just so I understand.
Okay, yep, sorry.
Are we referring to within our organizations?
Within your organization, about how you're communicating to employees in your organization.
Understood. Okay, thank you for that question. As I mentioned earlier, I think being overly communicative with staff is critical. Most of our workforce is able to work from home. So that has certainly been a message early on to stay home. We are not permitted to come into the office for any reason. So we're asked to stay home. We're certainly encouraged to use masks, and that was a message that was relayed early on. We do have some staff who do need to go to the office, and so I know that they've been very, very diligent about safety protocols for those staff. But we're fortunate in that most of our workforce is able to do our work from home.
And Davida, how about at Los Robles?
As you could imagine, there's a lot going on here. First of all, we did an aggressive campaign just on the flu vaccination. As you know, that was a big push to make sure that we're only dealing with one virus, one thing at a time to make sure our folks are healthy. We also are collecting data in preparation for any type of COVID vaccination. So we're providing that to local agencies, and also it's going all the way through up to our corporate office so that those numbers can be provided nationally. Our employees are available on our health stream, which is one of our training sites, to continually take PPE training, which is important. We also marry that up with signage in the units, depending on if you're in a COVID unit or whether you're in other units. There is signage. The nurses do huddles. We do rounding to explain. What I love when I go up on the floors and see, because I actually do go up to the floors, especially when we have a nursing student or somebody walking, and you'll see one of the charge nurses say, okay, make sure you got your shield on. Look at the signage on the room to make sure you're taken care of. So the communication is coming from emails from the CEO, from our department, from our corporate office, from education. We're providing it out there so that the diversity across our workforce, they're available in Spanish. So we're connecting with them at all levels and taking the opportunity to talk about it consistently. Lastly, when it comes to our meetings, we are limiting them so that we can social distance in the workspace and using technology such as this to connect with those that are at different facilities for us. And the leadership also rounds on the floor. Instead of having the health professionals who are in patient care come to all the areas in the hospital to do things, we're limiting them and keeping them in their silos as best as possible. And we're keeping that social distancing, but we're right there on the front line with them up there to discuss any concerns and issues. So it's a big deal, the messaging, the training, and it's going to continue. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and now we're in the lightning round, folks, because we have 9 minutes left. But let's hit UCLA Health and on what you guys are doing in terms of communicating with employees about those topics. Dr. Schaefer, I see you on my screen first.
Yeah. So UCLA has a screening questionnaire that goes out to every employee every morning. I get a text message. I have to answer certain questions.
Head north on Stoddard Avenue toward Fordham Avenue, then turn right onto Fordham Avenue.
I think someone's map is on. So I think, we answer all these screening questions before we can come in. We have symptom checks for everyone and temperature checks for everyone who comes into the office. We have a strict mask and face shield policy. So any time that the employees are within 6 feet of each other, or anytime we go into a patient room, we always have a mask and a face shield on. And that is, you know, something that we're just sort of looking at CDC guidelines and taking day by day and sort of, you know, changing these guidelines as we need to.
Oh, Brian, you're muted.
I was talking too much, apparently. John had to put me on mute. Let's go. It was perfect timing because Gary can unmute the audience for an audience question, and then let's keep it to a 30-second answer since we only have 7 minutes left. Double lightning round. So who has a question?
So many questions.
Yeah, so this is Michael Shanklin from Kidstream. I'm the eternal optimist and, you know, Pollyanna-esque, but my question to everybody is, you know, I'm always looking for the good in the bad situation. So, you know, I like ending on a bright note. What are some good things that can come from the pandemic that we can guide our children in and inspire them and, you know, and educate them on?
So Michael, I think you're a plant because that was one of the things that I also wanted to talk about. But it's a time of hope. We have Thanksgiving just around the corner. So if we can do a quick round robin on the whole panel of one, like Michael said, one good thing coming from the crisis, and one tip for parents or employers. And Dr. Naoni, I see you on my screen, so you're up.
Yeah, I would say that our kids and ourselves, we've all gotten very, very tech savvy. So that's going to help us going forward. Maybe we can, you know, lower our carbon footprint as a result of not having to be out on the road all the time. I would say that one tip is, you know, just make sure you are taking care of yourself every single day. Every single day, you need to do something for yourself, for your own mental health, and make sure that you're making sure that your kids and your family around you are doing the same.
Darlene, you're up.
Well, I would say that probably the most positive thing is being an essential worker. My husband's an airline pilot, and you know, I run a veterinary hospital and a nonprofit. We're very busy. And the positive thing of the pandemic is that we're focusing more time with family. My husband's been home more, we've been home more, and just being able to focus more on that family structure as well as community and being there for our community, showing our child that giving back is so important, and being able to help our community members. She's been able to attend some of the events just sitting in the car and kind of watching us do what we do in our nonprofit. And I think that that's a valuable message going forward, you know, and being able to see those things.
Thank you. Dr. Chi, what's one good thing coming from the crisis and one additional tip you haven't told us?
Well, I think definitely what I've been seeing more of, family time. Families are having family game night, family movie night, and going on hikes. I encourage families to go for walks every day. I think our pets are all getting walked more than they ever have. In this time and age where children sometimes spend their times with their friends away from home, now they're spending it at home, connecting with their parents. It's really important, and it's been a very positive thing. And one little tip that I would say for families is, as we're listening to all these different visits, is make sure that you keep your well visits, bring your kids in, and so that we can monitor all the good things as well as maybe some of the challenges that are coming up.
Thank you. Julia, how about you?
Well, I really think someone mentioned it earlier, you know, children are resilient, and this is a challenging time, but I really believe that there's a term called lawnmower parenting that I don't know if anyone's aware of, but it's the concept of trying to get all the things out of the way so that your child doesn't have to, you know, deal with any challenges, which certainly is not an approach that I would recommend. But I think that's something that we're not able to do, right? We're not able to move these barriers out of their way. And as a result, I think it's going to create a new generation of children who have to face disappointment and have to understand, I can't see my friends, and learn coping skills to address that. And I think it'll make them stronger going forward.
Thank you. Davida.
A good segue. Thank you, Julia. I feel that our kids, for the workers here at Los Robles, knew their jobs, parents' jobs were important, but they're now witnessing with true dedication, commitment, caring, compassion. They're actually witnessing that. They knew their mom worked at the facility. This was a nurse. They knew those things, but during this pandemic, I think they have a different sense of awareness and appreciation. So our kids are actually witnessing the true essence of who we are as human beings, and I'm happy about that. I would say one thing to capitalize on, especially from employers and employees, use the resources that are available to you. The resources that we have here through our employee assistant program that assists with the kids for mental health, emotional videos on how to get acclimated back to school. It's a plethora of them. Take the time to find out what they are, look at them as a family, and capitalize on that opportunity. Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. And Dr. Schaefer.
Yeah, I think that it has been really awesome to see how families have really come together at this time, and not just within their own nuclear family, but also extended families, more video visits and more, FaceTiming and things like that with extended family and friends has been really beneficial. And I hope that's something that stays. And also I think, having kids learn at an early age about, basic measures of infection control, like the importance of washing your hands and keeping each other safe. I hope that's something that kids and families can take forward into future flu seasons and things like that to help mitigate some of the negative consequences of other infectious illnesses.
Dr. Naoni, what can we as the participants, as individuals, or with our organizations do to help support the great work at Boys and Girls Club? Is it financial support you need, getting the word out? What can we do for you?
I appreciate that question. We've been open this whole time. We've lost an amazing amount of revenue and have tried to make it up. We're in a really tight spot. When schools decided to go back, we lost a bunch of families, and it was literally sustaining us. The families who can pay were sustaining us in some way, shape, or form. We've got a $600, 1,000 people by the end of the year that we need to do to keep our doors open in the new year. So if anybody's interested in maybe Jenny can put it into the chat box. We are running a campaign. You can go on to our website, bgcconejo.org. Literally, if we're looking for 1,000 people to donate $600 before the end of the year. And we've got a little message that we could send out that you can stick it on your Facebook or Instagram, send it out to all your friends. And I do want a huge shout out to Hilton Foundation, who's been an incredible support to our organization this year, like literally helped us to get through a couple of very hairy turns along the way.
That's great. And Dr. Naoni, would you also accept $600,000 from one of the organizations listening today?
Absolutely.
Well, good. I just wanted to make sure that was an option. Thank you. Thank you all so much, panelists and participants, for being a part of this. Thank you to John and People Media. John and his team will be posting this on YouTube, and the link will be available on People Media. Let's see, www.peoplemedia. Sorry, John, I'm going to repeat this and get it right. www.peoplemedia.live. That's www.peoplemedia.live. It's going to be posted later this morning, so you can share with all of your colleagues. And check out the chat before you leave. There are a lot of great resources that folks have shared with us. So thank you so much and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ryan. Good job, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Yay. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you all. Take care.